This is a super fun episode. First time since launch day that we've had two guests at once. We've got Adam Levene, founder of Hero, is back with us. Hey, Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, Kristen. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. And then we've also got Romain Gaillard, founder and CEO of Detox Market. Welcome, Romain. How are you doing today?
Hi, Kristen. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited about the show, the podcast.
I am so excited. So let's just jump right into it. Romain, I want to start with you a bit. Can you tell us about yourself and the Detox Market and kind of your brand story?
Sure. Absolutely. So I'm originally from France. You might find out that I have an accent. I grew up in Paris and lived in a few cities, including London, where Adam is right now. And kind of settled in California about 17 years ago. I was in tech first, living in San Francisco. And I shifted completely through a friend of mine who is a breast cancer survivor. And she's the first one who educated me about toxicity in general. And, toxicity in the air, in the food you eat, but also in personal care. And the personal care piece was a bit of a shock for me because growing up in France, you buy like skincare and hair care in pharmacies. So you have like people dressed as like doctors and say you should use that cream. And so I started doing some research and I found out a few things. The first one was that clearly there were like some questionable ingredients in personal care. And by the way, this was 12 years ago. Because now we're talking about these things like a lot, but like that was 12 years ago where there were actually very few resources around ingredients. It was not even the discussion, right? So that's the first thing I found. The second thing I found was that it was completely unregulated in the US. As opposed to like in Europe where there is some type of regulation. In the US, really, it's like there's an old regulation from the 30s that was done like almost 100 years ago. And that is defining kind of the guidelines of what you can and cannot do. But more interesting, what I found was a new generation of brands that were doing the right thing, that had like amazing ingredients. So they were not using the bad ones, but they were also using beautiful, like, powerful ingredients. They had great packaging, amazing founders behind, and like they were very efficacious like products. And so I decided that I wanted to tell that story, and so I created a pop-up on Abbot Kinney in Venice, in California, so that was back in 2010. And the foundation of it was that I wanted to create a positive experience around green beauty, tell that story. Tell people that like beauty should be cleaner, that beauty should be more transparent, but also that you need to look at beauty holistically. And that if you want to fix something on your skin, you should also look at what you eat, the way you sleep, what's your stress level, who are you hanging out? Maybe people are toxic around you and and so the first detox was in November 2010 and was supposed to be a 2-month project. And then a lot of other things happened. So we launched in November. So by the way, it's exactly almost 10 years ago because it was in November 2010. So we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary. At that time, it was not a conversation. People were not talking about green beauty or clean beauty. Or when they were just saying, it's kind of like for hippies, like, like if you're really sick, maybe you use that, but like it was not like something that was trendy. And so for the first 5 years, we did a series of pop-up across the US and Canada. We actually implemented Shopify in 2011. So our Shopify store was started in 2011. So we're very early on there. We launched a flagship actually in Toronto in 2012 as well. So we're very close to the headquarters again of Shopify, and always with the same idea of creating this positive experience, educating people about like toxicity and really empowering people to make the right decision. And the first 5 years were quite difficult because we were kind of alone doing that, and a lot of people felt we were crazy. That was something like only for like a few Californians, who are like
Yeah.
self-centered in what they eat and what they put on their skin. But like things changed, and really like we've seen like in the past 5 years a huge change in the way like consumers look at like ingredients, look at personal care, but also how the industry is looking at it, right? And so we've seen an incredible improvement, I would say, in the past 5 years. It's far from being like perfect, right? But it's so much better than 10 years ago. And so in that sense, it's been quite kind of a journey, and I'm very excited about what we did, what we achieved, and also like how we grew, because obviously in the past 5 years, we've grown quite a bit.
Yeah, I love it. And it's something I keep hearing in conversations is if you kind of start with a story and then bring in products, you're able to sell something deeper than just, here's a product from a founder. You really took this larger story and kind of consolidated it into a brand that then people could relate to that story. I'm very curious about, you started with pop-ups, you started on, the in real life physical experience. And now you've even been quoted saying that e-commerce sales are, make up most of the business, but you still have multiple stores around the North America. Why has retail been such a focus from day one? What does it bring to the Detox Market brand you can't get just on e-commerce?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing is, they were like, I created a bunch of different companies, always kind of had a plan. For Detox Market, I had absolutely no plan except that it was going to be a 2-month project. So I didn't care about having a long-term plan because I rented the space for 2 months and that's it, right? So I never thought about it like as like, okay, I'm going to do like retail and then like add the e-com and do that. It was just almost like a happy accident, right? And so the only thing I wanted, and that's why I went to like with a physical space first, is I wanted to create that physical experience. I wanted to kind of like be able to like do photo shoots, do videos, and like expand this experience outside of Detox. So we picked Abbot Kinney for that reason as well. It was a destination for people who were looking for trendy, interesting things. It's not the case anymore. Now it's kind of a big open mall. It's like only big brands, but like it used to be this kind of like really niche like clientele that will go there that were like trend setting and that were coming for a real experience. Our first store was actually a house. It was not even a store. We learned that actually after a few months that like we were not supposed to operate as a store. and so you would get in, you had like, it was against all the codes of retail. You would have to get in like through a pass, like climb some stairs and then get into that house that was like this beautiful house. And we recreated kind of like this space where we had like different stations. So you can really go and experience. And so we had a matcha tea station with the idea again of holistic beauty and like, to kind of switch from coffee to like matcha tea, like will help you in like many ways, like in terms of skin. And so we were educating people about matcha tea. It's hard to believe, but no one, when I say like, I would say 99% of the people had no idea what matcha tea was when we were entering. That's again, 2010.
Wow.
We had another station, which was cold pressed juices. Again, same thing. In 2010, it's hard to think, but like cold pressed juices was like, people were like, what is this? Like, I have my Tropicana in the morning. That's fine. We're like, no, well, there is something a little better you can use, right? And so it was very experiential. Like people will come, there are like very few products. We actually, because it was a 2-month project, I wanted to make it very simple for people to understand what we're trying to do. So I selected one brand per category. That's it. So you had one brand of skincare, you had one brand of like tea, you had like one brand of hair care. And so it was just like, how do you experience something completely new? And I didn't want to overwhelm people with choice. I really wanted them to just try and connect with the brand. All those brands were so connected also to founders. You were talking about it. And the founders were really involved in the pop-up as well. They were coming and doing like events. It was such, we were selling nothing literally, but we had so much fun.
Yeah. And, since those pop-ups, then you evolved into, multiple storefronts. How has the strategy of the stores changed now that you actually are running, full-blown stores that are not inside of a house kind of breaking code?
So we had very early, we developed a website because we had like a lot of our clientele, obviously now bikini was coming in and out, and they were like, how long are you going to be around? Are we going to be able to buy stuff? And at that time, I didn't know if I was going to continue Detox Market, right? It was a side project for me. And so eventually we're like after a few months, we're like, okay, let's build up something. We heard about this like small company called Shopify in Canada that was like a great like company to build websites. We did our website with $500. This is true. $500, our first website in 2011, and we launched. And so we saw like a lot of like customers that were mostly acquired, I would say, in our physical store that will just start buying from the website for convenience, right? And then we continued with pop-up. And so my idea at the beginning was to just do a bunch of pop-up, do those like events, educate people, make it fun, right? And just go to the next city and still have the website as this connector where you can like, ship products to people who are like interested in the story you have to tell and the products you're promoting. And so we did that. We launched in Canada. We did the website also in Canada. And so very early on, our actually mix of e-com and retail was mostly e-com, right? And so we always had like in proportion like a bigger income. Then I wanted to kind of still have some type of footprint in terms of retail, and especially a certain size of retail, and go kind of to the next level. So we opened a big flagship in New York in 2018. It took me literally 4 years to find that location. So I went like for 4 years to New York, visited a bunch of places, and I found this because for me, retail is, it has to tell a story. It has to be something you connect to. If it's just to replicate the same kind of format with the same design and the same table, and it's great for some brands, but for me, it's completely boring and I don't want to do that. And so this place was just like absolutely perfect because basically it was so difficult. And I love things when they're difficult because you have to find solutions around it and you can create this thing that is quite amazing. And so it was like an entire building. It's a small building in New York on Houston and Elizabeth. So the location is spectacular. And you have 2 levels and you have a rooftop, right? And so that sounds great. But then when you see the whole like layout of the place, it looks like huge. When I went to visit the place, I told my agent, what do you think? You think I have like $1 million a month I can put on? I'm not going to take a building, right? But the thing looks huge, but it's actually quite small, right? And it's all built like in a weird way. And so we have like the best possible architects. And so they created like an amazing kind of floor plan around, and it's honestly a quite unique place. So we have like the retail location in the bottom, and then we have a second floor that is just for like workshops and events and meet the founders. We sometimes privatize it for parties. We had a bunch of parties. We did like around like what we do, of course, like beauty. We did a lot of photo shoots, video shoots. And so my idea was that retail is not only like a place where you sell, it's a place also where you can create content, you create connections, and you connect that retail to the e-com part, right? And it's not only, for the people around in this neighborhood in New York, but it's something that you can amplify and expand to other people.
Yeah. Like the store almost becomes a mecca for clean beauty, green beauty, and the messages and stories that you're telling. Now, can you just tell us quickly how many stores you have now in 2020, and how many of them kind of are open, and how you've dealt with the pandemic with those stores?
Absolutely. We currently have 6 stores, right? And 5 are open. The one that is not open is the one in Union Station in Toronto. it's travel retail, so we're not open for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
It used to be like the most vibrant, like kind of like place in Toronto with 300,000 people a day going in front of the store, and it went down to sometimes we had one person passing.
Wow. Yeah.
So the way we did it is we closed fairly early when we saw that the pandemic was coming. If you remember, like that time was very kind of like shocking. We were like following it very closely because we have being French, have like had quite a bit of connection in France, and they were a bit ahead of like what was happening. But it was like crazy because from one week to another, one week we're like, oh, maybe we're going to have to be much more careful about the way we do things, to like, we're shutting down everything, right? So we decided to go on the very safe like side and shut down early because we knew that that was coming. Then it got imposed by like both the US and I should say actually state of California, state of like New York, and then like Ontario. And for a few months, we're just closed because we could not reopen, right? Our goal was to reopen as soon as we could, as long as it was safe, right? And those months were very interesting because it was the first time, imagine, like, even though we're mostly an e-commerce company, we were still operating a bunch of stores, right? That were like vibrant places with events, with not only like regular stores. Again, we were like having like a bunch of events. And so it was the first time we had like this kind of like, it was very quiet for one sec, right? And we had this time to rethink about what we wanted to do, how we wanted the stores to be, also what was wrong with the stores, maybe things we can improve. And one of the things, and we'll talk about that, is like, how do you actually, now that because we had still people on payroll, like what can we do with like these amazing talents, people that are passionate with what we do, that are like working in the stores and every day kind of like advising customers about what to put on their skin, and usually like they're very passionate. How can we leverage this talent pool, right? And bring it online, right? And so we implemented like Hero, which was like very successful. That was very like easily adopted by the team. Everyone loved it, and it was just this great, again, the same idea of like taking like the physical world and bringing it like digitally, because you have a level of service in a physical store that you will never have on e-com, right? And so the question is, how do you bring in the next kind of phase of retail, is how do you bring that like amazing level of like service and experience like to the e-commerce like consumer?
Yeah, Adam, you and I talked a lot about this on Tuesday, kind of this idea of humanizing e-commerce by bringing exactly what Roman just said, bringing that physical experience online. So, if someone hasn't listened to the episode that we did on Tuesday, which, by the way, if you're listening to this one, pause, go back to the one with just Adam and I first. It gives you a lot of good grounding. But just to reiterate a bit, Hero's kind of stance on this and what Hero is in this state, because this is really like the heart of what you created and what you saw the vision of Hero being. Can you just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think about Hero as being this pioneer of this space now that's become very prolific in virtual shopping, this idea of taking the IRL experience, the in real life experience, and bringing it to where the shopper increasingly is, which is online. And this is something that we got started with in 2015. This is not something that we sprung up overnight for the pandemic and COVID. This is something that we've been scaling and building at scale across the world since then. What we were able to do, though, in June, as I mentioned to you, Chris, in our previous podcast, was bring this to Shopify merchants in a really quick and simple way, and do it in June, which was still, for many of our partners, were either still in a lockdown period where stores were closed or just coming out of that lockdown. And we're delighted to have the Detox Market join our kind of roster of customers to bring this to their stores, where the store associates are empowered with the Hero app, but also bring the shopper experience live on their website, where a customer online can tap the Hero button and within 10 seconds connect live to an associate in the store nearest to them. And through text, through chat, through video, you really can bring that in-store experience to life for their e-commerce shopper. And really, it's all about giving the shopper the comfort to buy. As Roman says, it's all about education, especially in clean beauty and green beauty. educating a shopper on what is potentially a new product range is something you've been able to do in store and in person, but it's really hard to do online. And it's why conversion rates online on beauty websites for so long were so low. And this is really the impact that Hero is helping our partners make, increasing those conversions, giving the shopper that comfort, while at the same time empowering the passionate and knowledgeable associates to really sell beyond the four walls of the store. So instead of waiting for shoppers to be coming in, they can be proactive, they can open up the app, they can meet new customers they perhaps would have never met in person, assist them in the same way they would do in real life, and really delight that shopper. And in many cases, that shopper will then just add to their cart and the associate gets the credit. Or in many cases, and this is the experience I had with the Detox Market, Roman, I would chat to an associate online and actually went to the store. I was living in California for the past year and was able to head to the Montana store and meet an associate who was able to guide me on all of the items I needed to get my pregnant wife. But being able to have that experience online before to really navigate and then realize that some of them were actually available near me in the store that was only a couple of miles away. That was a really fantastic, very omni-channel experience.
Yeah, and really builds that that trust with the brand and the person who's kind of selling to you, where then it no longer feels like, I'm sure we've all been in that experience. We go into a store and you kind of feel like you're being like hounded by a sales associate and pushed into a sale. This kind of builds that much more natural relationship. Adam, you touched on this, that, beauty has been kind of a standout category since COVID hit with Hero, and you have the data to prove that. I'm going to just kind of pull some quotes that I saw this morning. Your beauty clients, like the Detox Market, have seen a 1.5-fold increase in chats, with 25% of all virtual sessions resulting in a sale. Just from an e-commerce perspective, that's a massive conversion rate. Why do you think this trend is happening with beauty? And Roman, you can kind of add to this question too after Adam kind of gives his thoughts.
Yeah, it comes back to the essence of beauty, right? It's so consultative. You need that personal touch, and really the sales associate or the store associate is the best person to assist. It's something a bot could never do. It's something perhaps someone in the customer service team who's excellent at helping problem solve, but perhaps can't recommend the right item. It's really where those well-educated, knowledgeable, passionate associates who really understand the movement of clean and green beauty, who understand the product, it's only really something they can provide. So yeah, we see 1 in 4 chats convert, and that's incredibly high. So you're talking about a 25% conversion rate. As a shopper taps a button, 1 in 4 will go on to buy something because they have that great, very human, very personal experience.
Yeah, Roman, are you kind of, is that how you feel like about this trend and these numbers you're seeing? Is there anything else you think you can kind of add to color this trend that's happening, where your store associates being able to connect with people online really has moved the needle for you guys?
Absolutely. If you look big picture, you have like conversion rates on e-commerce. Adam talked a bit about that, but like you have like anything from 3, 4, 5, 6%. It's like, but it never really gets higher than that, or like at scale. And in a store, like if we had like 3% like conversion rate in a store, I would be out of business, right? It was like,
yeah.
So it's obviously like significantly higher, right? And so why is that? Because we still have people who come in the store, they have no idea what they're doing. They're just there asking questions. And it's about the discovery journey, right? And in a place like Detox Market, where we promote small brands, indie beauty brands with a founder behind with a story, the contact and the time to tell that story is critical and very important. And the sales associates, we call Detox ambassadors, we call them ambassadors because they're here like we need to convey this passion and story that the brand has. And they are passionate about it as well. And so this contact can only be like kind of shared through like humans. As I said, like a bot cannot do it. And even you can create a beautiful landing page and tell the story and do this and that, but it's never going to be as effective as like kind of like this human touch.
Yeah, and totally agree with that. Your store team is highly engaged with the Hero platform as well. Hero let me know that 100% of your members have gone available online with Hero, and they have all had sales attributed to them. What has this been like for the store associates? Have you heard any feedback from them? The Detox Market ambassadors. I love that name, by the way. It really puts them in a much stronger position than kind of sales associate. Have you had any feedback from them? How are they enjoying these conversations?
Oh, they're liking it. They're liking it a lot because it's. But first, it arrived at a time where it was the best possible time to test the solution, right? I mean, it's like, what a better time than say, hey, by the way, guys, we're going to shut down the store so you can start using this app. It would have never been happening like before. So that was great. The first time was great because we were able to onboard things. But what we found out was that you definitely need to train the team to make sure that they understand all the capabilities of Hero and really how to leverage it. But overall, it's a very easy app to use. It's intuitive. It's not it's not Oracle where you need 20 sessions of trainings and then still no one understands what's happening. So I think it was intuitive. It was just kind of the expression, the kind of continuity of what they were doing. So
Yeah. And Adam, I'm sure that is part of the design of the app is knowing who your user really is going to be is not somebody who's, massively technically oriented, who can go in and code all these things to make the integration perfect. How did that go into the consideration of building the app of, who's actually going to be using it on both ends, both the customer and the store associate?
Yeah, for sure. I actually, it's the best feedback ever to hear, Roman. So thank you. It's always the best testimonial. And to hear we're not like Oracle is the best thing to hear in the world, truly, because we've designed the app to be intuitive. It's got to feel like using Instagram or WhatsApp or Messenger. We don't, I'm going to refer to them as ambassadors because I love this term rather than store associates.
Mm-hmm.
But ambassadors, they're not technical, but they're tech savvy. They have an iPhone in their pocket, or they have an Android, or perhaps an iPad they've been given. And so they're used to using very consumerized technology. They're used to using apps that they use outside of work. And really, we're bringing out a flavor of how those apps work and the behavior of those apps and bringing it into their work environment, bringing it into the store environment. For too long, retailers said you can come to work, but leave yourself at the door and leave your phone in your locker. And instead, Hero does the opposite, where it says, bring yourself to work, bring your authentic self who understands our product and can really connect with the customer, and take the phone out of the locker and actually use digital in a way that where you have the skills and you have the understanding and use it to connect with customers in new ways that are far more customer centric. And I think about some of the features, it's not just chat, but being able to send photos, being able to send videos of the merchandise. And in beauty in particular, when you want to see the texture of an item, or you want to see how the cream rubs into a skin, or you want to see the swatches, in beauty in particular, it's so visual. And being able to bring that to life over video or a two-way live video call, that's very powerful when it's really familiar to the technology that both shoppers and associates are used to using. As I mentioned, on apps like WhatsApp and FaceTime, we've designed it to really fall into a pattern and behavior that they're just so used to. So I'm delighted to hear that feedback, Roman, because of course that's where we spend so much of our time from a product perspective in making sure it just works.
Yeah. I just mentioning kind of the textures of beauty products. My mind had this click moment where it's oh yes, I really understand the power of video here, because the number of times I've gone shopping for makeup or face lotion, skin lotion, face wash, any of those things. And, there are all these great tools with shade matching and stuff like that. And there's almost always a picture of that cream or whatever it is kind of squeezed onto a plain white background. And they're trying to give you that this is what the texture is like. It's very creamy or it's jelly, but it's always you're looking at it my skin is not a white blank countertop. So it doesn't really make sense. So being able to have somebody hey, this is how it rubs in, this is how it sits in your skin, makes so much sense why this video aspect works so well in beauty. Adam, another question for you. You have lots of clients using Hero. We mentioned this average 25% conversion rate on chats, especially in the beauty industry. But the Detox Market actually has higher than that, nearing 30% conversion on these virtual connections. From your perspective, seeing all these companies doing it, what is the Detox Market team doing so well to get that amazing number?
Yeah, I think one is being available. I think that's the key, key starting point. It's almost so simple to say, but shoppers are there on the website increasingly so over the past few months because beauty has become this category that has really surged during the pandemic, where people want to feel better about themselves. They're buying more, but increasingly they're more comfortable buying items online perhaps they wouldn't have bought previously. So being able to connect live with someone almost instantaneously, and the team's response rate is fantastic. So they get back to customers within seconds. You're not talking about minutes or hours. They are there and available to help those shoppers. The
Yeah.
second is actually nothing to do with Hero. It's the education that Roman's team has put into their store associates and giving them all of the information and the power and the knowledge they need to really assist the shopper. We're just giving them the technologies to bring that to life digitally and to do that online. But I'll say one thing in particular as well. We're seeing so many more customers come back to the Detox Market after they've had their first interaction, more so than other partners in the beauty sector. And again, that's a real testament to that rapport that is built between the store associates and the customer. It's not a robotic experience. It's not a scripted experience. It's a really authentic experience. Just like we're having this open chat now, it's exactly the same way. But I think in beauty in particular, where a shopper is able to actually take photos of themselves, or they can be on video and they can show problem areas of acne or skin, or they have a particular problem, or they can really dive into a problem they think only they have, but actually there's a solution for, and being able to be quite vulnerable and quite honest in those interactions with a store associate, perhaps even more so than you would do in person, because you're in the comfort of your home. That's really powerful. So really, we can't take the credit. Roman's team has done all of the hard work. We're just helping amplify it digitally in a world of e-commerce.
Yeah, Roman, touching on that, you had mentioned there's some training and empowerment work to go into these ambassadors, so they know when they get on how they communicate, how you uphold that brand standard on a digital spectrum as well as in the physical space. And Adam mentioned you guys do that so well, and your ambassadors do it so well and have such great communications. What was the training like for them to go through to know really how to uphold that brand standard, how to run those conversations well? Or was it kind of already built into the culture because they've been doing it for so long in person?
Very interesting question. And thanks, Adam, for the compliments. And I cannot take credit for anything. It's really, it's not me. But so you have two types of training. You have the first one, which is the training on Hero, the app, how to do like do's and don't do's and stuff. And so that's an important one, but that's, I would say, a short one. It's intuitive, but my advice would be even if it's intuitive, make sure that take the time so everyone understands how to use it, because everyone has different kind of technical skills, and so you just want to spend a little bit of time on that to make sure that it's working. The bigger training is to make sure that everyone knows about the products that you sell, and that's where with what we do, we have a lot of SKUs, a lot of small brands, and they're brands with stories, with ingredients. They're complicated brands. It's not something. So that's the bigger training. And that's something we started, of course, it's part of our culture. It's we do trainings all the time, kind of brand founders talk about their stories. And honestly, also the ambassadors are just truly passionate about this living. So they just read a lot around it. Some are naturopath, students or doctors, and they know about ingredients. And so it's both relying on the structure that we put in place to make sure that they are formally trained on everything, but two, just on their passion and their talents, honestly, at that point. But it's key that if you connect, you can have the best app and the best customer, but if you connect to the wrong people who don't have the tools to advise and to select the right product, then it's then it becomes a terrible experience.
Yeah. So much of a focus on really making sure the people who are in your store, just kind of pulling this out for the listeners, whoever is working in your store, whoever is doing these, styling consultations, virtual shopping, appointment by shopping, all of these things that have kind of come out of COVID. I think the important thing is to always come back to the human to human connection that happens in physical retail, which is what we're trying to kind of get into the online space. but it always has to come down to that human on the other side and making sure they can hold up those conversations and they can have those deeper connections with customers. Roman, have you gotten, we've talked a lot about kind of the quantitative numbers, percentages of conversion rate and stuff. Have you gotten any kind of qualitative feedback from customers saying like, we really love this process, or this is what we think about it? Anything that your consumers have kind of shared about it?
So I think in general, people are like, really enjoy our customer service. So usually we had a customer service team that was not from the stores. So it was in the store when we were very small, right? And then when we got bigger, we got like a proper like customer service team who was incredible. Like they really work so hard, and they're, again, same thing, passionate about the product. They work from like a place where they have all the products so they can try and see, and really kind of give advice. And then when we kind of like give that kind of like new venue for people to communicate with us, which was like Hero, it was really helpful because it basically lowered a lot of like tickets on the customer service side about like people who wanted product recommendation or just like talking to someone, right? And so it's like I think they really, really enjoy it, and they see it as like, okay, I have a question, I need a direct answer, and I want to see things. That's Hero. And if I have a problem with my shipment, I just go on customer service. So I think it simplified kind of like the overall flow, and overall, like, people were satisfied. We have a very high loyalty rate at Detox.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, being able to kind of separate out avenues for customers. A lot of customer service and brand marketing and performance marketing really comes down to the experience a customer has and reducing friction, and to be able for them to show up and say, if I have this kind of question, I know exactly where to go, which is just yet another benefit of Hero, is giving them that very clear distinction of what kind of question leads you to what channel. Adam, I'm going to ask you this question first because you've already gone through this, and so you know what this question is going to be. But I'm gonna twist it up a little bit. So at the end of every show, we ask every single guest, what does resilience mean to you? Because resilient retail is the name of our show, and it just makes sense. So we got to ask everybody that. But Adam, I already have your answer for that. So I'm going to challenge you. What do you think resilience looks like? I got to reword this. How do you think the detox market really represents resilience?
Yeah, for me, I think actually one thing, just taking chances on new things, new way of doing things, new technologies. And I think we've all seen through COVID in the last few months in particular, a willingness to embrace technology where perhaps more traditional retail brands were perhaps skeptical to do so. A brand like the Detox Market is in this wonderful position because it has the right number of stores. It's not overstored. It doesn't have a store in every single location in every part of the country across the US and Canada. It has a right number of stores to really, as you say, Romain, to build the loyalty. You have a customer base that I imagine comes back over and over. But I think what the Detox Market has done so well is to grow the e-commerce to represent such a major part of the business. And of course, through these times where e-commerce is accelerating, even more so, the emphasis is on digital, and the business can really survive because of the investments and the bets that have been made on digital over the past few months and the past few years. So for me, I think it's a great example of a business that doesn't rest on its laurels. It's continuing to grow. I've really followed the examples of the acquisitions over the past few months in particular. I think it's a business with big ambitions, and we're excited to be part of that journey. And I think it's an inspiration to other retailers who are growing, other brands that are growing, especially in a new space like clean and green beauty, about doing it the right way with the right omni-channel mix, the right number of stores, the right investment and balance into e-commerce, and the right investment in new technologies like Hero to bridge the gap between the two.
Yeah, I love that answer so much. So Roman, now I got to toss it to you. What does resilience mean to you and to Detox Market?
It's a very interesting question. I think resilience is very interesting for us because we started almost in a resilience like kind of mode because we were not funded, and we launched a retail concept in 2010. And I don't know if you guys remember 2010 economical climate, but it was not like a time where to launch like a retail concept. So we started always with kind of like this idea of like how can we not take advantage, but like thrive and be innovative in a difficult time. And I think for me, resilience is like when you see something very difficult or like something is like it's to really ask, trying to be non-reactive and just breathe a second, say, okay, is it really a bad news? Okay, we had to close all the stores, like which seemed to be like the freaking worst news of like the entire history of like Detox Market, right? It's like, but is it really a bad news? How can we look at things differently, and how can we really take advantage of like this problem, this crisis, to evolve, to change, and to improve? And honestly, that's what we did.